In this exercise, we're going to use the DOM to programmatically create a table and then programmatically add rows to the table. So I've got a web page here with two buttons, an add table button and an add row button. When I click add table, I'm going to call the add table function. When I click the add row button, I'm going to call the add row function. So creating a table is basically three steps. The first thing I need to do is get the HTML element where I want to add the table. So I want to get the element with an ID of main div. So I'm again using get element by ID. So my element will now contain a reference to this div. So this ID and this ID, these two need to be the same. All right, step 2 is I'm going to create the table. And I'm going to use create element. The element I want to create is a table. I want to give it an ID so I can use it later on. And I will, in a future function, I will reference this table by its ID of table ID, so that uniquely identifies the table. And then my last step is just to add the table to my main div. So my element, which is right here, I'm going to append my table to the element. And that's it. So I save it and I click add table, nothing happens, but I programmatically create the table. And really you can't say anything until we actually start, adding the rows. So let's go ahead and add the rows. That's really a 5-step process. So again, the first thing we need to do is get the element. So I want to get the element called table ID. And that's where I want to add my table row. So I'm going to add my table row to an element with an ID of table ID. So that's why we gave this an ID up above, so we could use it later, and here I'm referencing my table. Step 2 is similar to step 2 up above, where instead of creating a table, I want to create a table row. So again, we use create element, but instead of creating a table, we're creating a table row. And I'm going to uniquely identify that by ID of my TR. If you want to look at this a little bit more, I recommend going to w3schools.com, and here they have some really good examples of how to create a table, how to create a row and add rows to it. So now that I have a table and I have a table row, the next thing I need is to create a table cell. So this is creating a table cell. Again, I'm using create element, and instead of a table or a TR, I'm creating a TD. And then I append that cell to my TD. And it's a little similar to create text node for a paragraph. It's pretty similar. So the next thing I need to do, so none of these are really attached to one another. So I need to append my cell, I need to append my cell to the table row. So now I'm taking my table cell and I'm adding it to the table row. And then one last step, I've got this table row, but it's not actually attached to the table. So I need to attach it to the table. So this is the last step where I attach the row to the table. I attach the row to the table. So I created a table. I added a table row. I added a table cell. And then I'm finally taking the row and appending it to the table. So if we test this out, add table, and now I add my rows, and it works just fine. So that's it. That's how to programmatically create a table.